All right. Does it say live on everyone's?
Yep.
All right. So, um, all right. Who wants to give a quick synopsis of the case?
I can do it.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Well, pretty much, like there's just the new manager is having some trouble managing his employees and figuring out the best managing techniques, and he's gotten a couple people upset by going down to the production line, which really isn't his. He doesn't really have authority over those people. And then in the meeting with the other managers, he really put down his team and made them feel like idiots for making a mistake on the PowerPoint. So now I think it's like the VP of, I can't remember what her title is, but it's the VP of something, of operations or something, has to deal with it and figure out the best way to go about it.
Yeah, so the issue on hand is pretty much is York's behavior is inconsistent with the company's culture. So, because, I mean, that's something that, what was his name? What's the production manager's name?
Shelburne.
Yeah, Shelburne. That's something Shelburne noticed and he wasn't used to, and so he took it to Mary. So, yeah. So why is it important?
Well, one thing that I noticed is that Shelburne also had a really high emotional response, and so I pointed out that it just seemed odd to me. I mean, she obviously had a storyline in her own head about the fact that this was a common occurrence for Shelburne to do this. Otherwise, she wouldn't have cringed at knowing what was coming. So it seems like there's an issue with just, people being okay with reacting emotionally to problems.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, thanks.
Sorry, that was like an input, not a question.
Well, I didn't even notice that. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that at all.
Me either.
It sounds like that guy probably freaks out at a bunch of different stuff. But in this scenario, I think he was in the right. Like, obviously, there's better ways to handle it than freaking out at your manager, but I think he was in the right to bring it up to his manager.
I agree with you, but I still, in my opinion, feel like he should have gone directly to York as well as talking to Mary about it. Just because once York has no idea that he's being called into the meeting, he has no clue what it's for. And if you put yourself in that situation where you're being called to a meeting, your side blasted, like having something that you had no idea about. You'd be like, okay, why didn't you come to me early instead of going to my boss? And either way, he probably should have still met with Mary, Griffin, but in my opinion, Shelburne still should have gone to all those people instead of just Mary. But maybe he's incapable of doing that because he's so emotional.
Possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of us served missions, but that's how comp inventory is. You don't go to the district leader, zone leader, or APs. You go to your companion if something's wrong. So I definitely agree with you on that. Like, he should have just went straight to York and said, "Hey, don't do that."
What do you guys think?
In this situation, though, like in a work situation, do you not want to get the superiors involved as well so they know what's going on? Like, wouldn't you want her to know as well? Like,
yeah, that's what I said. I think both of the people. I think he should have confronted York and then also gone to Mary.
Yeah, I agree.
But he didn't offer any solutions. All he was doing was complaining. He didn't say, "This is how I've taken care of it," or "This is what I think should happen." He was just kind of he just put it onto this other person.
I agree. Like, that's something that hopefully everyone working there, they can be adults and say, hey, that's not cool. And they can go, they can seriously figure it out. Especially since, what was it, Simmons, York, whatever this guy's name is, who was the new manager. He is a manager. You should be able to come talk to him with problems, and he should understand that he has boundaries of his jurisdiction. You can't have this presumed authority over everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the workplace this is a pretty common occurrence though, like dealing with immaturity of employees and everything. Like I think that's the biggest. Like with managers, that's like the hardest thing for them to do. Like my wife's dad is like the general manager at a Chevy dealership, and that's like all he does. He doesn't even do business stuff. It's just like dealing with stupid employees and dealing with stupid situations and drama and stuff. It's pretty funny to hear him talk about, but I think they put that in there for a reason, like the Harvard case, like because I think we're supposed to talk about that, and I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like I think it happens more than often than we think though in the workplace, like things like this.
And that's what it said in the Speed of Trust book too. Like, there's no perfect business. There's no perfect relationship. It was all. I mean, there's problems everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what do you guys believe is the culture at Derby Foods? Always complaining, or
Honestly, the way it sounded like is it sounded like they had a pretty friendly, open culture, because before York was made manager, he was able to bring up ideas, but at the same time playfully push, apparently. But also when in the presentation when they made mistakes, they're like, oops, my bad. We'll make sure to fix that before they got attacked.
all right.
So it sounds like it's a pretty laid-back place.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't talk more about it after last week's case study where it was like 100 pages, and this one was 19. I thought I'd go into more detail about stuff like that, but it didn't.
Yeah,
there
last
wasn't a
week
whole lot.
was really. I was thrown for a curveball because I just didn't expect it to be so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one a lot better.
There's not as much detail though, so it's harder to talk about it. But
I thought it would, I thought it'd be harder to talk about too when I first started kind of analyzing it, but I found there was actually quite a bit as far as because he talked about the culture, and it seems like as a new brand manager, he didn't know how to handle himself. So it doesn't seem like there's a huge culture of training new managers or a structural organization with leadership, because even though Mary handles stuff well, she's over. I don't know. It doesn't say whether or not the production manager, the director of production, Shelburne, he's under her. Since he went to her, she has problems with him as well. There's not a lot of coaching or mentoring with leadership skills or things that are being worked on in that company. So that's what my take was on the culture, is that there wasn't very much adherence to structural, whatever structural hierarchy they have, and even if they did have it, it wasn't being adhered to. And with Shelburne wasn't really maybe adhering to that, and we don't know what the structural hierarchy is. And then of course York is not, for sure, by just going down there. So, and then it seems like if he's been working there, he maybe should have been assigned a mentor that was another brand manager that had been working as a brand manager to know what the expectations were of how to handle himself. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of proactive kind of safety nets going on to help this guy who's a new brand manager.
yeah, well, I think that's why he got the job, because he was the assistant brand manager, and then afterwards once the old brand manager retired, he took place, because you'd think that he was already a mentor to him. I don't know what.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah, I think the company doesn't do very well with change. It sounds like they've been doing things the same way for a long time, and that the dude was in there for 27 years, I think he said.
Oh yeah.
Like the regular manager, and so I think everyone kind of gets in like the same kind of going through the motions and everything. And when something changes and something new comes in, then everyone's kind of thrown off because they've been doing the same thing for so long.
That's a
Which-
good point.
Which honestly is a pretty common problem for companies that are moving from the medium stage into larger companies. They have to hire a lot more new management, and they don't take the time to really teach them how to manage well. They just kind of throw them in there and let them figure it out. While smaller companies, they tend to focus a lot more on the training, and larger companies tend to do that. When you're in that middle stage transitioning into larger, they tend to have that problem quite often.
So do you think this company needs more organization then?
Well, honestly, I think this is a good chance for Mary. If she's calling him in, she can honestly really put this product that he wants to talk about aside and really do some good one-on-one training to help him really, because it sounds like he's a pretty good guy and he's going to be a great manager. He's new at the position.
Yeah, that's what I think too, because as assistant brand manager, he built the company pretty high, I guess, from what I understood. He advertised and made, I don't know, a new logo. I don't know exactly what he did, but yeah, I guess he built up the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is normal too. I think there's always a learning curve. When someone comes into leadership, it always takes a little bit for them to kind of learn their own style and to, figure out what's going on. So I don't think this is super unusual. I think he just kind of needs some bullet points, what he can do and what he can't do, and he needs to learn where his authority ends and where it begins.
Yeah.
And honestly,
go ahead. Sorry.
okay, I was going to say, and honestly, if they really didn't teach him, it might have been simply because they thought that since he already was under, that he'd be able to just fit into the groove already. Instead of realizing that even if you promote internally, there's still a training and a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. They probably thought maybe didn't need that coaching because of his previous performance.
Okay, Sarah, yours cuts out for mine. I don't know if anyone else hears you cutting out, but
it does a little bit for me too.
Oh, I was just saying that they probably didn't expect to need to train him if he was already performing so well.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So the next question on this is, what do you think are the beliefs that support the culture? I guess we already talked about that. So what are corporate politics and how can it affect culture? I guess the politics is all in the management. Whether
or not people feel comfortable to be honest and go to management with problems, or and whether or not how they have dealt with problems before how management deals with issues, kind of sets the tone, I think, for other people.
Sorry about that. I actually missed a bit of that. You were cutting out there for a bit.
Oh, just that how management has dealt with problems previously probably sets the tone. Whether or not people feel comfortable to approach and talk about problems and issues with upper management, I think that's probably a huge indicator of whether or not the tone or the feeling of the executives or whoever is in charge.
Yeah.
And the case didn't really talk about that. I mean, obviously Shelburne feels comfortable enough to just walk right over and talk to Mary. So she obviously handles herself well and is open to hearing about or wanting to know about problems. Otherwise he wouldn't have done that. He would have been more fearful and just try to handle it himself.
So do you think Mary is okay with Shelburne doing that every time there's a problem, or do you think there needs to be a change there as well?
Well, it sounds like that generally different departments don't like working with each other. And that could simply be personality class or whatever. clashes, excuse me. But honestly, it really does seem like their politics is go to the higher ups and try and push that problem on them. And of course, there's no way that Mary likes it that way. No one likes babysitting for adults.
Yeah, so I think we should, I mean, I guess the best solution is what Sarah said earlier to first go to the source, so go to York, and then also tell the management so that both of them, is that kind of what we decided on that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like how much easier and how much confrontation would be avoided if York went to the Shelburne or whatever and was like, hey, the X is a little too small. Make it, make sure you make it bigger, and then everything would have been solved. Instead, he goes this other route. And, I mean, if Shelburne was mature, obviously he would be okay. We'll get it taken care of instead of blowing up and saying, like, oh, blah 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 blah. So I don't know. It's just interesting how like the situations can be so different the way they're handled, just based on one person's personality and things like that, the way they handle it.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, these are all about culture. So what is Mary's role? Hold on. What is Mary's role in establishing the culture? I'd say she's just letting it be how it is, so that relaxed feeling.
Is the question how should she be or how is she? Because that kind of changes things up a bit.
Yeah. What is her role in establishing the culture? That's what it says. So I guess what is she doing?
Honestly, I think she's kind of taking a very passive role. She's doing very heavily the whole hands off and let people sort it out, and only gets involved when she has to. However, I think that with her position, she can really be the one to kind of set the entire flow, because she really is the one who can teach the managers, and the managers set the flow for their specific departments.
Yeah, because you saw from when they had the meeting, she saw that York was not doing good leadership skills, using good leadership skills, and so, but she just let it go, hoping that was a one-time thing, so instead of taking care of the problem right off the bat.
And honestly, I don't think that's a great idea with a company, especially when you have new leadership, because if you just leave them and don't help them out, then you have to realize that they're coming up with everything new on the spot. But you can help them and give them the knowledge especially if you have more experience in the matter. I mean, tactfully, of course.
Yeah, I agree with you in that being passive is not the best way, I think, to lead. I think she's leading by example, and it seems like that's not enough at this point, especially with her coworkers. I really feel like he could use some interpersonal skills. He's pretty good for him, but if he's not adapting that example to himself and how he deals with problems, then he might use some I think some personal skill type training styles they acting course.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So, how does she support? Okay, so more culture. How's she? Oh no, hold on. Yeah, how is she supporting the culture?
Yeah, there are a lot of culture questions. Yeah, her role. Again, she's not. I don't think she's supporting a very proactive culture in that she's taking a very passive stance and just reacting to things instead of making sure. Because these people obviously under her, he's responsible for output or what kind of work that they're doing, whether it's effective or not. So obviously she wants them to be employees that are, she doesn't see on stepping in and just dealing with problems. She wants to be, she should be creating a culture where she's proactively engaging and helping them, you know, with their leadership style and with their interpersonal skills, their communication skills, so that she doesn't have to constantly put fires out.
Yeah. So let's go to Simon now, or York. How is he establishing or maintaining or going against the culture, supporting the culture? What? Yeah, let's talk about York.
Well, York thinks he's doing like a fantastic job. You know, at the very end, that little paragraph about him, he's like, you know, my team's motivated. I have very high standards, so my team should be, you know, I'm holding my team to the same high standards where there's no mistakes, and you know, the brand has to be perfect. And so, like, you know, looking at his logic, it makes sense too. You know, he wants everything to be perfect. He really has done a lot for the brand that's 150 years old, and it sounds like he's gotten some really good contracts and everything like that. So, in his eyes, he's doing fantastic. He just doesn't understand that he's stepping on toes and making some other people upset.
Yeah, if he keeps going around doing what he's doing, it's all just going to blow up in his face. Like when he jumped down that one guy's throat for making a simple mistake, that just means everyone on his team, anytime there's a mistake, they don't want to talk to him about it. They're going to try and hide it. And those things will come out eventually, just when you want them to, the least. So.
Yeah. And actually, I was talking with my first counselor in the bishopric. He was talking about how he had a bishop when he wasn't married. How he got up the first Sunday and was like, if you've done this, come talk to me and don't get your hopes up because you're probably going to go home. And so no one had any desire of going to him because they wanted to stay at BYU Idaho, and so they just wouldn't repent or whatever. So I think it's the same situation. If they're just trying to hide everything, just like you were saying, Brandon, so that they can have peace.
Yeah, so honestly, I think his feelings of doing awesome, they're not going to last very long for York, the new guy.
Yeah. So now what about the team members' role in doing the same thing, supporting culture, going against culture, or establishing, maintaining, whatever? I don't know exactly what they mean by team members. Maybe that's the floor people, or maybe that's Shelbourne, or Shelbourne.
His brand team, I think.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think then? Just being passive passive too, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one, because like going into your boss because you have a problem about the boss, that's really scary for everyone. But honestly, I think that it would be better to do that than to work in fear of always messing up and getting fired or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
So what I thought about the team members is that they not only will they had mistakes, but when you publicly, he's not taking accountability for mistakes of the team, because he's the brand manager, and he's the team. Maybe he should have looked over that portion of the presentation, and so that he could have seen the mistake before it was in front of all the sales managers and other brand managers. He needed to take accountability. I think he has issues with taking accountability with something and realizing his part in, you know, the mistakes that could have happened. It doesn't say if he had been monitoring the production, you know, if he had, you know, done a final check on the label to make sure there was no mistake. There might be some things that he's dropping the ball, possibly, in that he's not checking these things, and that he's not used to having to check these things before, you know, a production or before a meeting, because he's never been in a role of having to be the one that's the final, you know, person that's accountable for the presentation. Instead, he's pointing fingers, he's blaming He's blaming the production team. He's blaming his own team, and also, I put he was shaming them in front of his peers, and thinking that was necessary to do that instead of waiting until after the meeting and talking to them, alone. It was another example of very emotional behavior and immature behavior, and not very good leadership skills, and not taking accountability.
And not just the fact that he shamed him in front of his peers, but also he threatened him with his job. That guy could have a family and stuff. That's not a light thing that you just play around with.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, I think for York too. I got you got a devil's advocate almost, but it's he's got to prove himself to all these other brand managers. You know what I mean? He's this brand new brand manager, so it's everything that's going on, it does reflect on him. And so when he comes in the meeting, there is mistakes already. He's just trying to save face. You know what I mean? He's trying to prove himself in front of all these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So to him, it's this huge deal where it's dude, come on, this is my reputation. I'm trying to his team guys, this is my reputation. You guys are slandering, and get it together. And so that, I think that's where he's coming from. But at the same time, in his situation, you just got to be oh shoot, there's a mistake on the thing. We'll get that fixed and move on to the next thing instead of making a big deal about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think the best thing to do as a new getting into a new position is to do everything the same at first and feel it out, and then once you have a feel, then you can start changing things to best fit the company. Because the companies are always changing, so you gotta change with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you were saying about saving face is totally true. But he was obviously not himself more than the team, and he demonstrating and I'm not insecure. He's actually either again overconfident combined with someone insecure as being being judged for this reputation.
I'm sorry, I missed most of that. Your computer was cutting out. Could I ask you to
we
say
can
that
move
again?
ahead. No, it wasn't really anything that imperative. It was just that it's a sign of him being a combination, I think, of him being overconfident with his reaction, to the mistake, the team meeting, combined with also an insecurity, feeling insecure in front of his peers. And so, anyway, that was an interesting point. Saving face.
That is interesting. Yeah, saving his own tail. So what would you recommend starting, stopping, or continuing in each role? Each role being Mary's role, York's role, or the team members?
That question.
Well, what was it? It was, what would you recommend starting, stopping, or continuing in each role? So I guess we could start with the starting. What would you start? What would you recommend to Mary to start doing? And then what would you recommend to York to start doing? And then each of the team members.
I'd recommend that Mary needs to start being a little bit more hands-on with the training of the leadership and seeing how they're doing. Realizing that her team members are the other managers.
Yeah, and I put on my little write-up thing that once she sees a problem, she needs to address it right away, or else the company's not going to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like she's let Shelburne continue to operate this way. Again, going back to the fact that this was a regular thing that he seems to have been doing. So it seems like she's let that happen. She should have been, helping him with knowing the expectation of how he should be handling problems. I mean, he's the director of production, and he should used to problems and realizing how he handled it is very telling of you know, of himself and you know, how he handled this problem is very important, and he needs to think and analyze that. He should be looking and entering and helping him with those skills.
Yeah. So what about York then? What should he start doing?
And that's kind of hard because I think York will just mature, eventually. It's like hard right now because he's a brand new manager. But I definitely think he needs like management training or something like that. He needs like outline rules and I don't know. He just needs to figure it out. But I think eventually, like, I mean, I don't want to bring up like the mission again, but it's like that's like the only corporate experience a lot of us have kind of had, I guess you could say. And it's like obviously there's leadership in the mission, and I think a lot of times a new missionary comes into leadership and goes through the same exact thing. I mean, Justin and Brandon, would you guys agree with that? Like, have you seen that in your missions where a new leader comes in and it's kind of like doesn't really know what's going on and stirs things up a little bit and gets some people angry?
Yeah,
Definitely.
And so,
I also
like, I had an assistant like that who came in and was kind of just like kind of a prick, and everyone kind of hated him for a while, but eventually he became like one of the best leaders out there. So I think just over time it kind of they kind of develop naturally and mature naturally, but definitely with guidance from like Mary, I think should be a lot more hands-on with them and giving them pointers and things like that.
I also think that something that York should do is he really needs to go and apologize, like personally, to the department he flipped out on. Like he really should go buy them donuts and apologize. If not, then that little like war between departments is just going to keep going, and their team is not going to like each other because they'll feel that from the management, and that's not going to be good because they need to work together to make this product correct. If they don't like each other, then it's not going to happen.
So are you saying more of a personal apology or a public apology?
Well, if he yelled at them in public, I think he needs to go in, call them around with a box of donuts and be like, guys, I'm so sorry, stressful stuff. Have a donut. I'm sorry, please, I'm new. Take it easy. Let's do better next time. My bad.
Oh yeah, that's good. And actually, something I think York should do also is when he goes and meets with Mary to, put everything into action that she tells him to do, not just blow her off. I mean, the meeting hasn't happened yet, but in what we read, but I'm sure she's gonna give him some instruction that he needs to follow. All right.
Yeah, I was just again what you said. If I was back, if I was in the production team, I would not want to work with that guy. I would not want to do anything to help that guy or help him in his products or brands or whatever he's doing. I'd be like, that guy's crap. Again, the interpersonal relations is the world. There's no motivation for somebody's project, and it's another sign of a lack of interdepartmental relations because the brand manager should have been checking with Shelburne. York should have checked continually through the project and said, is this label right? Okay, let's do a final check. Okay, Shelburne should have been, keeping up as well with that project and done checks and make sure that that label was exactly how Shelburne wanted it to be. So again, there's something missing between those two guys that hadn't happened for that problem to have happened.
All right. So do you think they were lazy, or is it more of a priority thing?
For what?
For them not checking up on the projects progressed? Do you think they were just being lazy about it, or do you think they had other priorities they had to attend to?
There's probably just other priorities.
I think there was. Sorry.
Wait, what was that, Sarah?
Okay, well, I think they were. I just lost my train of thought. I think there was probably an assumption made that it would be handled the way he wanted it to be handled. The label was the way it should be. There was probably assumptions that, oh, it's been taken care of, or Shelburne will take care of it because this is how I wanted it, or Shelburne was assuming the other way. So I think it was a breakdown in communication. It could have been priorities, but when it comes down to it, there was a breakdown in communication. If he had to go down there and communicate again, no, this is the way the label should be, or this is, I wanted it the X to be, then somewhere that wasn't communicated.
Yeah, definitely. So, oh, go ahead, Craig.
I was gonna say, I wonder like how many, like if the label, like how many they had already made. So like if they're packaging these snowball things, if they had already made like 100,000 of them, it's like super tick because he's like, well, now we have to scrap all these things, or you know what I mean? Like it doesn't really give details, but. Or I wonder, like, if he checked the label and then later on, like, it didn't appear, like, on the actual package. He checks the digital copy and then they print it on the thing. And it turns out different. So I don't know. Like, it doesn't really give details on that kind of thing. But if they had already made like 100,000, like, I could see him being ticked off, But I agree. It is his job to like go down there and make sure, like as soon as the first one comes out, that it's the way he wants it to be.
So now let's go to the discussion between Mary and York. How should Mary approach the discussion?
Well, it's gonna be hard because York thinks it's like a good job meeting. He thinks like he's doing really well, and he doesn't really see it coming. So she's got to be sensitive about that.
Yeah. So what do you think would be better? Is like saying some people in the company have noticed this, or I noticed in the meeting you did this, and I'm just, I think it'd be better if she took the blame, I guess, and said, hey, I noticed that you were doing this. I just want to make sure it's not spreading.
I agree. I think Mary needs to say that she saw it herself.
I agree with that 100%. I think that if she goes about saying that other people have noticed things, then all that's going to do, or at least what it can do, is create more, okay, who's snitching on me, who's not. If she says she's noticed that and she has advice, then that is her directly telling him what he needs to do better, which is what he's trying to do.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if he's not receiving any feedback of how to improve and consider that, as a parent, you don't want to just hold your kid and then have them cry because they feel like crap themselves, but you want to make sure you essentially positive things that he's done in that meeting and encourage him to, let him know that that they recognize the reason why he was made better, but that you work on communication is so important with how people are feeling about wanting to work with you and being open and honest about how things are going, so that production keeps is in sales and everything, just like the book. If there's trust that falters, then how can everything else is going to start crumbling around it. So he needs to make sure that his team can be open with him, and that the production team is also going to trust him in the fact that he's going to handle it with more professional manner. So if with that feedback, there needs to be a balance in that meeting.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of covers the next question, which are like key items that should be covered. I mean, yeah. So
Kind of like
we'll
a
just
district
skip.
meeting.
What?
I just remember, like, you know, like the numbers and doesn't really translate to some of the meanings, some of the things that you're doing. So you have to focus on things that are actually good. It might not be translated to actual data.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can Mary best reinforce the culture? I guess that's assuming the culture is already a good one. So I don't know. How can she best reinforce it? I guess just trainings is what I would do. Trainings with the managers, and then hopefully they will train the employees. I don't. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that that's good. I think another thing that she needs to do is in her talk with York, she needs to really take this time to exemplify the kind of constructive feedback that she expects him to be able to give.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way that she handles this, it's going to have to be handled very delicately because however she does it, that is how he is going to treat everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, in the MTC, like they taught me the Oreo effect. I don't know if they taught you that. So always tell some like when you're giving instruction, like always give them something good, and then give them the middle, which is the bad thing that they're doing, and then tell them again what they're doing good. So sandwich it between two good things and hope
Give
for the
them the crap sandwich.
best. Right. Okay. So what are the most effective methods Mary can use to make the discussion productive? I guess we've already went over that. So describe the principles of effective feedback and how it applies to this situation. How to give effective feedback. I mean, do you guys like the crap sandwich?
Yeah, I think you covered it quite well actually with that.
Okay. Um, do you have any more recommendations for the discussion that they are going to have?
I have a question for our discussions in general. Do we want to continue meeting on 9:30 on Thursdays?
Well, I'd rather see what works best for Howell. Like 7 in the morning, I definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
he
either.
might. Yeah, no, that's not good. I'm getting kids ready and stuff to go to get out the door, so that's impossible. Maybe he might need to switch to a different group if that's the case. He can't meet after that, after 8.
Yeah, because we signed up for the 8 to 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. One other thing, though, I found in researching is that there was like a great article about creating a culture of coaching and how just doing one feedback is not always the best.
I'm
You're
sorry, you're
working in a
cutting out
company,
again.
that's just the culture. Oh, okay. If you a culture of coaching in a company, you know, environment where it's expected, it's constantly happening, and it's not just this doomsday, once a month thing where you're doing this review or once a month kind of PPI thing where I have to go to my feedback meeting and be told my crap sandwich. There was a lot of there was a lot of evidence in that in companies that have an atmosphere where coaching is constantly happening, it's not, it's a much more productive way of doing coaching. Is that it's constantly ongoing and people just accept that it's part of that company and to culture.
Yeah. So, um,
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Last.
So I guess the next thing is, what principles, if any, from this lesson's reading apply to this case? I think the whole thing applies to the case. Like, I mean, I guess the lack of the four things is what applies to the case, right? I mean, I think they all lack integrity. Like, they're all trying to cover their own tails so that they don't have to be the bad guy. But once Shelbourne goes to Mary, like, she's like, all right, I guess I do have to be the bad guy in this. And then, well, I guess York has good intent, right? I mean, he wants to grow the company. That's what he was doing as the assistant, and so I think he wants to do that, except the only thing is he's lacking the third part of the intent, which is the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then capabilities, I guess they're all capable of doing it. They have the talent. I guess they have to work on their attitude. They have the skills, they've been trained. I guess York needs some more management skills, maybe Shelbourne too. And I don't know, the style of doing things. And then the last one is producing the results, so getting the end product, no matter, I mean, whether that's the product itself or the learning experience that's involved with it. So, I don't know. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
I think one of the big ones that York was missing was the integrity in those four. There was a quote in their book that I really liked. It said, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was pretty much the three things you need are personal integrity, high energy, and motivation or something like that. But those three, without the first one, will kill you. And I think that's kind of what they're looking at.
Yeah, that was the root part of the tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that was in the second, which I can't remember where it was, but yes.
Right. Anyone else want to comment from the book or cover it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just give a brief summary of our whole discussion. So we talked about how the culture is a more relaxed culture, and that needs to change. And the best way to do that is through trainings given by Mary or anyone else higher up, I guess we can assume, and to also go straight to the source, but also tell management what's going on so that they can also help you help the whole situation, I guess. And then we talked about a lot of people's actions, mainly York's, but playing devil's advocate, as Craig was saying, you got to look at it. His perspective, he was just trying to do his best, making the changes that he thought would be best, but they ended up losing the trust of the floor, the employees, and also Shelbourne, I guess. So what we can conclude is more trainings once a month so that they can be accountable and be given their crab sandwich. Is that pretty much it?
I like it.
Sweet. Okay. And are there any last comments? And then we'll pick a group leader after or for next week or after these last comments.
I got nothing else.
Everyone good? Okay. Any volunteers for group leader? I can meet with you. Well, I don't. Where do you live, Sarah?
I'm in Utah.
Yeah. I can I can meet with Brandon or Craig if and tell you how to do it, or I can just do it over the phone with Sarah or Howell if he stays in our company or in our group.
Are all three of you
I
guys
can do it.
in Idaho?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I can do it, and I can just get with you on how we do the whole leadership thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, you get a link and from the teacher, but I just want to make sure you know how to get the link that I provided with you guys because it took me 3 hours to figure out how to do it. So I don't want you guys to go through that as well.
See, look at that. Isn't that right there? Integrity and competency and all those great goodness right there. What a leader. You did great. You should do it again.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
Was this the
I
class
was
where we?
wondering how long that took you. I was hoping it didn't take that long. That's definitely 3 hours I didn't have.
Was this
yeah,
the class
well,
we did the YouTube video icebreaker?
what about it?
We did that in this class, right? The YouTube link for the icebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that
it was
sucked
harder
too.
to get the group.
Yeah, that one was the worst.
That took forever.
I looked on the board and everyone was just like, dude, it took like 3 or 4 hours. Like I had to YouTube how to do it. I like watched the YouTube video on how to do it. And once you figured it out, it was super easy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess next time or same time next week, right? 9:30. That works for everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay. And Brandon, you gave me your personal email, so I'll just email you my phone number, and we'll get together or something.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thanks for the participation, and I'll email this link of the recording to you guys, and I'll also, well, do you guys know where I post it? Or do I just email Brother Squire the link?
I thought you just
I can't
emailed
remember.
him the link, but I have no idea, to be honest.
It says, after the discussion is complete, obtain the YouTube link for your recorded activity. Send the link to your group members. Contact your instructor. Notify him or her that you are the group leader for the lesson. Oh, that's for next week. Next week, the group leader needs to notify the instructor and request the password. But I don't know about. It doesn't say anything about getting it to him. How to get it to him.
Maybe I'll just email it to him. Yeah, you definitely need the password, or else you can't get the agenda. So, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks again. We'll meet back up next week.
Sweet. We'll see you guys next week.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.